Hey everybody, Neil Flynn here, back once again with Sports Shorts. Couple things I wanted to get into before we get into the picks. First off, I actually had a request to talk some hockey. Unfortunately, it's so early on in the season, there's not much going on. But as you can see, I went ahead and threw on the Thrashers gear for this particular one. And on that note, like I said, it's very early on in the season. Not much is going on. Teams are still kind of getting into the groove of things. But I'm going to make one bold NHL prediction, and I'm going to predict that the Thrashers will make the playoffs this year. Now, despite what last night's game might show you, I think they actually have a pretty good team. And they looked pretty good on their West Coast road trip. Fell a little flat last night, losing to Buffalo, but we've got some goaltender issues. Our number one goaltender, the first game of the season, lost consciousness on the ice, and I don't know if they ever figured out what happened or not. But our backup's been playing really well. He looked really good last night. In the first period, only giving up one goal, and he probably could have given up, 3 or 4. And a couple of them weren't his fault, and just no offense to support him. And they wound up losing 4-1, I think was the final. And the one other thing that caught my eye, clicked on Yahoo this morning, and they had a story on there about this Mighty Might team at the Capitals game, where they do, at the intermission, they have the Mighty Might kids teams come on and do a little, game during intermission. And apparently, before they went out there, one of the team manager for the Capitals or something was talking to the kids and was talking about, goal celebrations. And he's like, something, I've never seen a snow angel. I've never seen anybody do a snow angel. So if somebody does a snow angel when you score a goal, you'll get a game puck from the Capitals. So what happens is the kids go out, and the first goal, all the kids drop and start doing a snow angel, because they kind of misunderstood what the guy was saying. So they all did a snow angel, and then on the second goal, they all did it again. It was actually really funny. I'll try and find a link to the video and put a link down there so you guys can see it, because it's actually pretty funny. And they wound up working it out, and they got all the kids a game puck, so it was pretty cool. But it's a really funny video to see, and I want to see an NHL superstar recreate that and do a snow angel when they score a goal. They get fined or penalty for that, but it would be pretty funny. The other thing I wanted to touch on, which is a pretty hot story in sports this week, and that is the NFL cracking down on the quote-unquote malicious hits that have been occurring. Last weekend, I don't know if it was just a perfect storm where you had all these incidents happen. First off, you had the Rutgers player actually get paralyzed during a game. And then in the NFL, there were 4 just vicious hits. And so the NFL kind of had a reaction to all that and came out and said, okay, forget fines, forget all that. We're going to start suspending people for these, vicious helmet-to-helmet type hits. And they came right out, and 3 of the guys from the previous weekend, they levied fines on Merriweather for his hit on Todd Heap, which, if you watch that, he is just out to blast that guy, and it looks intentionally. He's trying to take him out. And that's the kind of thing they're trying to avoid. And then James Harrison actually had 2 different hits in his game. So he got a $75,000 fine. Merriweather got a $50,000 fine. And then Dante Robinson from the Falcons, which they've been talking a lot, here locally, obviously, because it was a Falcons player. He got $50,000 for his hit, which if you look at his hit, and this is where the problem's going to come in for the NFL, because his hit is really him just making a play, and as he goes to make the hit, he kind of slides up, and there's helmet-to-helmet contact, and he actually gets knocked out on the play as well as Deshaun Jackson for Philadelphia. And I don't think there was, he wasn't trying to do that. Obviously, he's not going to take himself out. And they said it was because the receiver was defenseless, but this is where the problem is going to come in for them, because there's no, you've got to be able to somehow look at things and say, okay, was this, a football play, was this, or was it intentional, like in the Merriweather case, where he's just looking to lay the guy out. So, they say the rules have already been in place. They're just going to more strictly enforce them now. And it's, for him to get the same fine as Merriweather got, I question what the NFL's thinking with that. But we'll see. It may be a case where, they come out this weekend and they suspend, a couple guys for a couple hits and then, get the message, okay, we're going to do this. And, then it kind of calms down again. And all the talk's been about the player, well, they can't go half speed, they can't stop themselves in midair, and they can't go half speed, and they can't control, But I think the players, they may have to, not change how they play, but just kind of, change their aiming point, basically. Don't go for the head, go for the chest. Obviously, you don't want guys diving at their knees either, because that's going to cause even more problems, but... So it'd be interesting to see how the NFL handles this. We may touch on this, in a week or two and see if there's been any repercussions. So let's get into the picks. Last week was not a good week for us. I'd said in last week's video, I really want to have a winning week this week and kind of bump my record up, and that totally backfired on me. It was not a good week at all. Starting in the NFL, had Atlanta at Philadelphia. I picked Atlanta to cover, Atlanta as the underdog. That did not happen. Atlanta pretty much got creamed in that one. The two we got right, we got Oakland at San Francisco. San Fran getting their first win of the season with a nice victory over Oakland there. And then Indianapolis at Washington. Indy hanging on, covering that 3-point spread just barely for us. So that was the two we got right there. And then the last one, the Monday night game, Tennessee at Jacksonville. I had picked Jacksonville as the underdog. Did not happen. Tennessee pretty much thumped them. Interesting game there with both quarterbacks getting injured, though, in that one. Moving over to the NCAA, and I had told you guys I shied away from picking my Huskers, and I thought they would do it against Texas. Something about Texas. I don't know what it is. They just have our number. So missed miserably there. God, that was a tough game to watch as a Husker fan. That was just, I was screaming and yelling. It wasn't so much Texas beat us, but we beat ourselves. You had the fumble after Texas scores the first goal, and then we immediately give them back, and they go up 10-0. And it was kind of an uphill climb from there, and our receivers kept dropping everything that came near them. So it was a tough game to watch. We almost made a nice comeback there at the end with the pooch punt return. But just a tough game to watch there. Cal at UCM is the ATM pick. We're going to give the ATM pick one more shot this week, but if it doesn't pan out this week, it's getting retired. Because obviously it's not working. I don't know what happened in that. Apparently USC went and found a new team, just like Texas found a new defense. USC found a whole new team, because they sure did not look like the same team they've been earlier in the season. And then we had Missouri at Texas A&M. Again, I misjudged the team, I thought Missouri was this, how did they get this undefeated record? They're not that good, but they showed, maybe they are that good, so. And the only one that we got right, that I actually did call this one, I said Ohio State was going to go to Wisconsin, and they were going to struggle, and that's exactly what happened. Great game, and Wisconsin pulling out the huge victory. So for 2 weeks in a row, number one goes down on the road. We'll see. Oregon is playing on the road this week. We'll see what happens there. So moving on to the picks for this week. We'll start in the NCAA here. We have Notre Dame going to Navy. Notre Dame, the 6.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with Notre Dame on this one, and the reason being, Navy's got the quirky offense, and that's the only thing that kind of scares me a little bit about this game is Notre Dame's defense at times leaves a little bit to be desired, and, Navy runs that quirky triple option wishbone type deal. That's the only thing that scares me a little bit about it, but Navy is just... they lost to Maryland, who Maryland is nothing. They barely beat... oh, God, now I can't remember. I looked at this before I started, and I can't remember. But anyway, they've struggled, is the gist of my point here. They've really struggled against lesser opponents. So I'm hoping that Notre Dame can go in there and, put a good game together and come out on top of that one. Next up, Michigan State, undefeated Michigan State, going to Northwestern, who is an upstart team, mind you. Michigan State, the 5.5-point favorite. We're going to go ahead and stamp the ATM tag on this one. I don't see that there's any way that Northwestern can win this one. Michigan State would seem to be the much better team. And, you know, it's a 5.5 point spread, which basically a touchdown. So we'll see what happens in that one. But I think this is the one week where I feel pretty darn comfortable that nothing's going to go wrong with the ATM pick. So next up, Oklahoma at Mizzou. I picked against Missouri last week, and it didn't work out for me. As much as it pains me to pick an Oklahoma team, the spread is only 3. Oklahoma's only favored by 3, which, I don't know, that seems a little low to me, so I'm going to go with Oklahoma on that one. Which, interesting enough, all 3 of those first games, I'm picking the road team in all 3 of those. Last but not least, Georgia at Kentucky. Georgia getting the 3.5. Or like Kentucky in an upset in this one. For some reason, I don't know what it is about Georgia, Kentucky. Kentucky always plays Georgia tough, especially when they're at home. And despite Georgia looking like they remembered how to play football the last couple of weeks, I like Kentucky. They're coming off a huge victory over South Carolina, and I think they can play with anybody. So we'll see what happens in that one, but I like Kentucky in the upset, the only home team that I'm picking in the NCAA this week. So moving on to the NFL. I'll try and speed this up a little bit. First off, we got San Francisco at a winless Carolina team. San Francisco coming off their first win of the season. I look for them to build off of that. It's a 3-point spread in San Francisco's favor. Carolina, like I said, they're still winless. San Francisco got their first win. So in the matchup of bad teams, I'm going to go with San Francisco in that one. Then we have New England at San Diego, and this one is mind-boggling. For some reason, San Diego, this is the same San Diego team that lost to Kansas City, is getting 2.5 points in that one. New England coming off a big victory over Baltimore. Maybe because they're the home team, they're favoring San Diego a little bit in that one. I don't know, but I'm going to go with New England in the quote-unquote upset in that one, getting the 2.5 points. Then we got the Giants at Dallas, and this is another one that's kind of, I don't know. Dallas getting the 3 points in that one. I'm going to pick the Giants in the upset. So once again in the NFL, we're going road upsets. Well, not road up. They are road upsets, but road teams over home teams. In the NCAA, they weren't upsets, they're favorites. But and last but not least, Cincinnati at Atlanta. You guys may have heard me talk about it. I am a Cincinnati fan, as well as San Francisco, and I do cheer for Atlanta a little bit just because they're the home team. So this is kind of a tough game for me to pick because I like both teams. But being a Cincinnati fan, you have to be realistic about your team, and Cincinnati has not looked good this year. I'm hoping that we can turn around, but so far they haven't shown me that they can come into Atlanta and beat a very good Falcons team. So Atlanta, 3.5 point favorite. We're going to go with them on that one. And hopefully things work out a little better this week than they did last week. And hopefully you guys are enjoying these videos. I've been getting some good feedback on them, so I'm going to keep doing them. And thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And we will see you next week. See how we did.